So, Thanksgiving morning came bright and early down at Aunt Beryl's double wide, where the air smelled like burnt coffee and the faint aroma of something fried. The whole family had piled in, and when I say piled, I mean Cousin Skeeter was sitting on the armrest of a recliner holding baby Ellie Mae, while Grandma Joe was wedged into the corner of the couch hollering about her blood pressure. Out back, Skeeter was in charge of the turkey, which meant one thing: deep fryer duty. He had his truck backed up to the yard, tailgate down, with a fryer big enough to cook a whole hog. Now, Skeeter, in his finest camo overalls and a single mismatched sock, declared this would be the best dang turkey anyone ever ate. He even rigged up a pulley system using the truck's winch to lower the bird into the boiling oil, which might have been a good idea if Skeeter weren't also sipping sweet tea out of a mason jar. He spiked it with his special recipe, too. Inside the house, Aunt Merle was orchestrating chaos in the kitchen. She hollered at Uncle Bubba, "Stir the gravy," but Bubba's stirring technique was more like flinging it across the counter. The green bean casserole was bubbling over, and somebody, probably Daisy, had dropped an entire stick of butter on the floor. And then the neighbor's dog decided he needed to lick it up. Speaking of Daisy, she arrived fashionably late, as usual, carrying her famous deviled eggs. Now, Daisy's recipe isn't for the faint of heart. Her eggs are so spicy. Oh, so spicy. They've been known to clear sinuses and start arguments. Grandpa took one bite and muttered, "Might as well eat fire ants," which Daisy took as a compliment. Then there was Uncle Earl. He showed up with his legendary possum stew, a family tradition that no one fully understood, but everyone eats out of obligation. He showed up with his legendary possum stew, a family tradition. Earl swears it's just like chicken, but the way it jiggles in the pot has always raised questions. Little Ellie Mae proudly brought her Jell-O salad, a horrifying concoction of lime gelatin, canned peaches, and chopped pickles. Really? Bless her heart, she even topped it with whipped cream. Talk about sweet and sour. Now, the star of the show was Skeeter's turkey, or it was supposed to be. 20 minutes after lowering that bird into the fire, Skeeter hollers, "Fire in the hole!" Turns out, he didn't quite thaw the turkey out all the way, and when that icy bird hit the oil, yeah, it erupted like Mount Vesuvius. Flames shot up 10 feet, and Skeeter came barreling around the corner, waving a fire extinguisher like a lunatic. Uncle Earl, ever the problem solver, grabbed the garden hose and started spraying. Now, any fool knows you don't put water on a grease fire, but Earl's wisdom comes from a different school of thought. The backyard turned into a swampy, fiery disaster. Aunt Merle ran out screaming about her begonias, and Skeeter was yelling, "Save the turkey! Save the turkey!" Meanwhile, Grandpa leaned back in his chair, sipping his iced tea, and said, "This is better than NASCAR." By some miracle, the fire went out, and Skeeter fished the turkey out of the fryer. It was a little blackened on the outside and smelled faintly of burnt rubber, but Skeeter declared it extra crispy and set it on the table like a prize. We all finally sat down to eat. Grandpa gave the blessing, which includes thanks for still having eyebrows and another year surviving Skeeter's ideas. Everyone loaded up their plates, and just as we started digging in, we heard a tiny peep. Turns out Uncle Earl's possum stew wasn't entirely deceased. That critter came to life mid-meal, popped out of the pot, and bolted across the table, dragging a deviled egg in his tail. Aunt Merle screamed out so loud the neighbor dog ran for the hills, and Uncle Bubba tried to catch the possum with a paper plate. It was chaos. Plates flying, gravy spilling, Cousin Daisy climbing onto the counter like a cat avoiding water. Finally, Skeeter caught the possum with his trucker hat and took it out back, releasing it into the woods. "That there's the Thanksgiving miracle," he declared. Grandpa nodded and added, "It's the Lord's way of saying we didn't need no possum stew anyhow." By dessert time, things had settled down a bit. Aunt Merle brought out her sweet potato pie, and even though it was missing half the crust, no one cared. Skeeter swore the turkey was the best he'd ever made, despite its charred flavor, and little Ellie Mae was so proud of her Jell-O salad that we all pretended to enjoy it. Now, as the sun set over the backyard, now dotted with scorched marks and soggy patches, Grandpa raises his glass and said, "Family ain't about perfection. It's about getting through the mess together. And if you can do it with a deep-fried turkey and a possum on the loose, well, then you're blessed." We all clinked our glasses, even Skeeter, who had already started planning next year's bigger, better turkey fryer setup. And that's how we celebrated another Thanksgiving, redneck style, with plenty of chaos and laughter and just enough duct tape to hold it all together.